Looking good. Oh, never mind. Time Job is not with us. Gentlemen of the F3 Nation, welcome to the Stuff Worth Trying podcast. I am Tommy Boy. I am absent a co-host this week because our friend IJ is representing the F3 Nation down in Sandlot Jacks. So shout out to IJ. Tip of the cap, brother. I love you. I mean it. Hope you have a blast. Send pics. Hashtag FOMO. Gentlemen of F3 Nation, it is a special, special weekend, not just in the form of our greater tribe, but in the form of two guys that are a guest today that I'm super proud to know. I'm fortunate to have broken bread with. I'm fortunate to have bled, sweated, and cried with. The men of F3 Omaha are celebrating their 5-year anniversary. Today, I believe, was the official day. Tomorrow is the Brewha and celebration at their mothership AO of Boys Town in Omaha. I have been lucky to step foot on that soil with another guy I love dearly, F3 Greensboro's Houlihan. We'll get into all of that, but I first have to do the honor of bringing these guys in. So why are you listening to today's podcast? A, because it's F3 Omaha and they're always crushing it. B, it's because hopefully somewhere in your F3 heart is burning the fire to set it ablaze elsewhere, meaning your region is looking at the neighboring city, the neighboring county, somewhere far away where you once lived, or somewhere far away that one of your brothers is moving to. And you want to be part of giving it away to the next guy. That's what today's conversation is all about. We just happen to be naming it after a region that happens to be named after how we stop the workout. I don't even know what you guys yell at Omaha. I guess you yell Greensboro. Who knows? But anyway, we'll get into all that without further ado. Nantan Emeritus of F3 Omaha. Wait time. Give us a quick name-orama and how you got your name.
Chad Bruff, 51. Wait time. Got my name in, got my name in Greensboro with my brothers from Greensboro. I always say because I did my job really poorly. Introduced myself that I worked in hospitals my entire career, and my job was to improve service in places like the emergency department. And they all laughed and they said, customer service, emergency department, it's nothing but wait time. So kudos to those guys in Greensboro. Sorry I didn't do my job better in your local community emergency department, but lots of great memories from you, Tommy Boy, and from many other high-impact men in Greensboro.
Amen, man. And my man crush on Twitter, because nobody does a better name-orama, Tater Tot. Welcome to SWT Podcast. Name-orama, how you got your name, brother?
Hey, Tommy Boy, thanks for having me. I am Adrian Ryder. I'm 42. I'm Tater Tot.
Tater Tot. Good times. How'd you get that name, man?
Well, let's see here. It was one of those classic name-oramas where people were just a yawn fest because you were saying all the things that you're supposed to say, you feel you're supposed to say, and they're like, come on, give me something good. I said, I don't know. I put Heinz ketchup on everything. And the Nantan we're with today just says, what goes better with Heinz ketchup than a tater tot? So Tater Tot was born. For the record, I am a French fry and waffle fry guy over tater tots.
Right.
No offense to tater tots, but that's just put that out there. Anyway,
so that's the culinary equivalent of showing up with like a Bulls jersey and getting named a Celtic or something, right? So I dig it. I dig it.
Boy.
No, the pleasure is mine. I can't think of two better men to chop it up with when it comes to, at some point in the evolution of a region, it's bursting at the seams, right? And you can either hold it in and then wonder at the 6-year reunion why you're getting choked out, or you could just get started and never be taught the history of where your region came from, right? You just show up to a workout and then it's 5 years later and you're like, wait, we were planted by whom? Or how did this thing, it started in Charlotte. What are you talking about? So we want to kind of cut through all that and talk about two things. A, what it's like to be sent off by a career trajectory or a life trajectory to another area where there is no F3, and to plant that and what that looks like, what resources available. And then here it's now 5 years. What's cooking? What are you looking to? How are you looking to give it away? So we'll start it this way. And as I said, before we hit record, my goal is not to talk any more than I have to. And ideally, I'm going to be the third most talker. So shutting up, wait time. You started F3 in Greensboro. You started your F3 experience in Greensboro, rather. Soon thereafter, life took you in a new direction. So why don't you kind of walk us through briefly the history? And then I have a question for you when you get to the chapter that starts with, and then I opened my car door and I was in Omaha.
Yeah, great. You know, I, as I said this week, as we celebrated our 5 years, we stand on the shoulders of F3 Greensboro and some incredible high impact men like you and Sack and Wojo and all the people that really showed us the way and how F3 is done in its purest form, in its way that it gives back to the community through leadership, as a way as it welcomes men into the gloom. And I was just lucky enough to learn from the feet of a lot of very high impact men, and had the challenge and difficulty of career wise being taken out of Greensboro. And I really grieved leaving Greensboro because of F3 more than anything else. Greensboro is a lovely town. But what I missed most were the guys that I had met in the gloom and how that group of men helped me make Greensboro home, of which I'd only lived there 6 years. It was not where I was from. And it certainly became my home through F3. And so it was really through those relationships and through my desire to create community. And for those guys on the call that might be listening to this, who've made a move like that across the country, it's really difficult to start over and create community with a family while you're trying to do your job professionally, to making sure your family feels comfortable in the community. And I didn't take that lightly because I knew, what a challenge it was even for us to move from Louisville, Kentucky to Greensboro the way we did. And so as the story goes, Tommy Boy, you presented me with a couple of amazing shovel flags, and I opened up the F3 Omaha Twitter account in 2016, drove to Omaha, got out of my car at Turner Park in the Midtown area of Omaha. And before I did anything else, God's honest truth was I planted those two shovel flags in the ground, took a picture of them, and tweeted them out from F3 Omaha's Twitter handle. And
which made everyone happy.
Yeah, how'd that turn out?
Yeah. Proceeded the next day to get an email from Wojo, who I think had said maybe Crotch Rocket from F3 Nation had reached out to him and was like, "Is this one of your guys? What's he doing in Omaha? We are not ready to plant Omaha." And I just laughed and I said, "Sorry, I didn't mean to ruffle any feathers or get anybody upset, but I'm kind of staking it in the ground, literally, that at some point we're going to plant Omaha." And sure enough, 2 years later, almost to the date, that we planted Omaha at Boys Town in 2018.
Yeah, yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, on the timeline memory thing, right? The picture popped up of us sending you off 7 years to the day. So that was phenomenal. With the whole backdrop being watching you guys celebrate 5 years of F3 Omaha. I want to tee it up this way. This is the question I promised, and then let her rip. My favorite story, one of my favorite stories of you as an individual, is how you teed up what F3 Omaha could look like. At the time, you walked into your direct report, your supervisor, the CEO of your company, if I'm not mistaken, and said, "I want to have a conversation with you about what it's going to look like for me, wait time, to make Omaha my home," and proceeded to expound upon F3. If you wouldn't mind, you don't have to talk about the whole conversation, but that's the backdrop. Talk to us about what kind of fell in place after that.
Yeah, that's a great, gosh, I hadn't forgotten about that conversation until you said that. I just knew when I got the news that we were going to be a LEAP city back around Christmas of 2017. And, I had a pretty demanding job at the medical center, and this was going to take a lot of my energy and attention. And I said to my boss, I just wanted to reassure him. It's like, look, um, I'm going to put a lot of energy in this. You're going to see me putting energy in this into the community. I want you to know this is me expressing to you that I want to make Omaha my home. And if you want to retain me here in Omaha and make Omaha my home, uh, I just want you to understand that this is energy well spent for me. And I won't, allow any of the things I do at work to drop off in service of that. But I am going to create a community here that Omaha hasn't seen, and one that I believe will make a difference here. And he was awesome because he was also a guy who was not from Omaha, had moved to Omaha 2 years, almost to the same time period of time that I had moved here, and he understood that and saw that as a way for as me investing in my life here.
It was like a perfect collision of atoms. But yeah, that's always resonated with me. I won't forget you sharing with me how that went down. Um, so then when it comes to putting rubber to the road, obviously you've got your heart's on fire for F3. You've got a brand new city that's never been impacted by the men of F3. So it's a blank canvas, which is exciting. And at the same time, it's probably equally terrifying. When it comes to a guy who has experienced F3 landing on a foreign territory, what are the resources and benefits that you experienced having connected officially with Crotch Rocket and getting that set up? Like, walk us through briefly when it was time for you to pull the trigger as F3 Omaha. What did that journey look like? To the day, take us to the day up to you planted the shovel flag out of your front yard and into Boys Town.
Yeah. Well, I laughingly say this about Crotch Rocket. My first job was to give him a little bit of a geography lesson because we're a flyover state, clearly. And a lot of times when you tell people you're from Omaha, they'll say, how close is that to Tulsa? Which is, go look at a map. We're actually 2 states away from Tulsa, to be clear. But F3 Nation kind of started this, and they suggested that we try to launch pretty quickly in February. And I said, I just don't think that would be a good idea in Omaha because the winters are really pretty brutal here. And asking guys to come out for the first time in February where it might be -20, not probably the best idea. So after the quick geography lesson about how far north we are and what the Great Plains were like, the wonderful support we got was just a lot of knowledge of, stuff worth trying and stuff that maybe you might think is important that's maybe really not. I thought probably all along, like getting some sort of publicity through the World Herald newspaper here in town, our big daily newspaper, or one of the local TV stations would be like a secret sauce. And, Crotch Rocket said, we just don't normally see that panning out. And we didn't really go after that. But, in the last 5 years, we've had some of those types of opportunities for publicity. And, to be honest with you, they don't amount to much in terms of EHing and bringing guys towards you. It's a nice validation when you're having a weird conversation with a guy at a cocktail party that you can, send him a legit newspaper article about your organization. But beyond that, I don't think that guys really respond to things like newspaper articles. So I just use that as an example of the wisdom of Crotch Rocket. But let me be clear. The most important thing that happened with the way we did LEAP at that time, and this would be the maybe thing I would have guys walk away with, is I think it was really important that the team that helped us plant here came from Greensboro. Me working with a group of strangers from Charlotte or, Atlanta, or you name the city, is different than me working with guys who I knew and I had posted with and who had EH'd me into F3. There was an element between me and you and Sacked and Houlihan where we just kind of, in some extent, when it came to F3, could probably finish each other's sentences. I think that's special. And I don't, having done this for a few years now, I don't underestimate how important that was to our early success. Was that I had guys I was familiar with. I had guys that I wanted to be successful if they were going to take time out of their busy schedule to fly out here to Omaha and be a part of it. And we were extremely grateful to have the guys from Greensboro like you there to help us launch. So I don't think we do that as much anymore. But if I was strategizing and opening up new cities and you have a guy that's moved away like I did, having them work with some of the packs back where they had relationships from, I think is a really smart move.
I would echo that sentiment from the giving end, in the sense that it made F3 for me stickier than it had ever been prior, right? Like all of a sudden you're talking with, your beloved friend who just happens to be states away, and yet you're talking about the thing that brought you together, in most
Mm-hmm.
instances in our friendship. But then you're really hammering down, drilling down into why do I love this thing so much? Why am I benefiting from it so much, to the point where I'm going to carve out time? I'm going to commit to making sure that my 1 hour, or if you include cafeteria, 90 minutes to 2 hours in front of these brand new guys, has to be pitch perfect. Knowing it could go off the rails at any moment, but obviously we're talking about preparation at that point. But that's a much different thing than just being tapped on the shoulder and saying, yes, I will go and launch a mustard seed. I will go and launch a leap. And just further underscored, the stories, the camaraderie, the fact that Tater Tot and I would lie down in traffic for one another, all stemmed from what in essence was 2 hours on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And that means a lot. And so, yeah, if guys are out there that are listening to this and are scratching their heads wondering, where should we land next? Think about where your packs have gone, and could you tap them on the shoulder and be the one that completes the map of the United States, or be the one that starts F3 in a new territory? So totally agree. Final question for you, Wait Time. As far as our conversation is, if you could hop in your DeLorean, punch it to 88 miles an hour, what would you tell yourself then, between the time of that 2 year buildup, or your time as Nantan of F3 Omaha, that you wish you had thought of previously, if anything?
Yeah. I'll just say what I said during my COT this morning when Tater Tot and I spoke. It's, don't underestimate the packs. Like I believe in our guys more than anybody. And even at that time, at times I can underestimate them. And so, when you're making decisions about growth and expansion and bringing more leadership on, and, you have this inner critic in your mind questioning whether or not it will work and whether or not guys will actually do this or not. Like, never underestimate men's desire to be challenged and to step into leadership. And it's just been proven to me over and over again that guys will step up. And so early on, we might have even grown faster had I been willing to put more AOs out there, but I just had this certain deliberate way of doing it that might have actually slowed us down early on. And if I'd have just had greater belief, using old Ted Lasso plot theme, I think we would have grown even faster than we have now.
Yeah, like you don't recreate Greensboro, create F3 Omaha, right?
Yeah,
like that's the beauty of it. And again, it goes back to the whole premise of this podcast. It's stuff we're trying. It's not stuff that you have to do this way.
Right.
Because the men that you met and the lives that have been changed because of the two of you are not the same guys as anybody else anywhere. So
right.
I dig that mentality. All right. So at some point you pass the shovel flag over to our man Tater Tot. Tater Tot, give us the brief timeline, day one to holy dog shit. Wait Time just wants to pass the shovel flag to me as Nantan.
First of all, I want to get something very clear as people are listening to this. Wait Time is way more articulate than I am, so we'll get that right out of that.
Don't you work for a university though?
And he may be a respect thing, but his memory is far better than mine as well. So I'm an energy guy. That's what I bring. Not much more. So
False.
I think it started with that, Tommy. It was such a relief. I think you got to go a little bit further back to understand maybe why the past even happened. I was in a place in my life where as so many men, you don't realize what you need until you feel it. And I was given that morning of Tater Tot's birth, just that special formula of what the hell was that? I want more. And so you don't realize, what it is. You just know you want to be a part of that. And so there was that genuine personality that was there. Of course, as you extend your time in F3, you realize it's far more than the workout. We talk about that all the time. But I was able to finally let go of some things that I'd maybe been protecting, maybe wasn't telling myself the truth. I knew I wasn't being honest with myself in the mirror. And these guys accepted me for who I was day one. And that's really special. And I think that is a lightning rod to F3 and can't be underscored enough, is it'll meet you where you are right when you need it. And so I needed that. And so it almost like just this breath of fresh air I hadn't had in my lungs in so long, it brought an energy out. And, I got to just go like a dog in a pasture, like, whoa, let's do this. And so that energy was real. It was an hour that I didn't have the weight of the world on my shoulders. And you got to do that every single day. And so through that energy, you create relationships and a trust, and people gravitate towards other personalities. And Wait Time and I, he's a competitor at heart. He's an Indiana boy back there that likes to talk a little basketball every once in a while. You start bringing that up, and he shifts a little quicker. We've got some commonalities in that competitive spirit, and so, but we saw eye to eye on a number of things, and so he started to lean into me, and he asked me to lunch at a place called Paradise. And I was nervous. I was like, what could this be about? Because he was very quiet. He was very stealth-like. That's what he does, the Jedi mind stuff that they talk about. And
he's like Matthew McConaughey without a Texas accent is basically what he is.
It's crazy, man.
He'll crack you to the core.
Seriously, something's coming. You just don't know what. And so there's a way that he can make you feel so a part of something and feel so meaningful and justified. And he just walked me through what his vision was. And so we talked about it, and he just said, hey, I'm just telling you, this is what I would suggest that we do, but you don't have to do it. And lo and behold, COVID came.
Mm-hmm.
And we forget what that time we shut down for 50 days in Omaha. And during those precious moments where it was that quietness, and I know Wait Time's talked about when he lost his job, but he put all of his focus in F3 Omaha before he planned it. And he spent all that energy in doing it the right way, talking to the right people, educating and getting to the basics of what the foundation of F3 Omaha is. We got to do that for a period of time where things were quiet to prepare ourselves for when we were going to reopen. And so I spent a lot of time with him. And if you've been in a Nantan or leadership position, it can take a year to really digest what the heck you're trying to accomplish. And so we spent a few months together. And when we launched and COVID started to release some of the handcuffs that were on there in our community to just be able to, spread out and start to plant, we were ready. And we said, let's fly. And there's also an interesting conversation that Wait Time and I had that he may recall or not recall. he said, "Hey Tater, maybe we've connected with everybody in F3 at Omaha. Maybe there's not a lot of growth left. I don't know. We just, we started to see a little stall for a little bit." And after COVID, we opened the doors, and there were some bonds that happened during that time. And a lot of guys still talk about those precious moments across the country that the leadership was just put on steroids. Those all became our sight cues right out of COVID, and then it exploded, and we were ready for growth. So he did so much of the groundwork. I just had to, and I wrote it here, I don't know if it's backwards. It just says, "Don't F up." That was all I needed to do. Just don't screw it up, man. Because he'd done the dirty work, right? Just keep it moving in the right direction. So anyway, there's so much more you want to touch on, but he did the hard work. I just got to stand there and say thank you.
Well, it's funny when I hear you tell that story, it reminds me that you and I had a phone call. When you said COVID, I totally forgot until just now that you and I don't remember if I called you or you called me or what.
Oh, that's right.
It was one of those random moments that I was like, oh my God, is that Tater? Because you and I were both Nantan at the same time when it came to does it look like when the world's sideways, and F3 is F3. You talked about not, don't F it up, which to me, it's like you can't break it as long as the mission, the core principles, and the credo are met. And you and I kind of dug deep on like, what's going on what's going on?
Yep.
Fill in the blank. That was and that kind of sealed the deal. Cause from, I met you, as I mentioned before, for 2 hours. We had a life-changing experience for both of us. You definitely more because you were new to the game. But then watching Omaha grow and these characters of men, these personifications of their F3 handles become supersonic. You were one of those guys in the sense that I would seek you out just to watch your name around us. I still go down to this day and share guys. I have it saved on Twitter. The one where you guys are all jumping to the backseat of somebody's car and in a parking deck somewhere. And that was like still one of my favorite. Guys, if you haven't seen an F3 Omaha Halloween name around, you're doing yourself a disservice. And I text wait time. I'm like, what is Tater doing? Like, this is so great. And he's like, it's all Tater. It's all Tater. My kid, and I think I've shared this story before, but my kids, every time we do, like a couple times a month, we have burger night, especially now with the grill fired up. And we do tater tots. And my kids don't pronounce them tater tots. They pronounce them tater tots. And that all stems from all stems from you. It's such a silly little minute detail, but to me it's so important because it's part of the DNA of the brotherhood, at least the three of ours, right? And to know that my kids know who you are yet have never met you is a pretty damn cool thing. So segue into that legacy conversation. What's cooking in F3 Omaha now as a region who was a leap plant? Because I want to build the trajectory for anybody who wants to replicate a leap. As a region who was planted by a leap, what's cooking? Where are your eyeballs and what's next?
It's a great question. So in the winter, we tighten up, right? Things get a little tighter.
Yep.
And so every year, it's just like that you balloon when you've got growth season, but then what the real growth is really when things get hard. And winters are hard here. And so this is just a little side note for things worth trying. A lot of regions do CSOPs. Okay. Being strategic with, at least in the Midwest where our CSOP is planted, we typically do, February 1. It's kind of gravitated towards that. And why? Well, it didn't start then, but it's become that. And it gives people a reason to stay engaged, something to work towards through the winter. It's top of mind. It's a conversation. It's an event. And if you don't know Omaha loves events. I mean, we do. And it's bigger than F3. We just, as a community, we love to throw parties and we do it really, really well. And so I think those CSOPs, they're a party. They're hard, and they press you, and they're a lot like the grow ruck conversations you have, where it doesn't break you, but it certainly makes you push harder than what you typically do, and you do it together, and you bond and you grow from those events. So getting us through winters, we often see just a massive growth in that spring. Now, moving forward, growth looks a little bit different because the leadership structure is growing. It can't just be wait time talking to site queues. You can't, we used to go into his basement, and he'd have this presentation, and it was, fancy food from Honey Stinger, and there'd be, buffet of mac and cheeses and barbecue, and the type that we talk of these days, and they're like, Tater, what the hell happened? You guys sound like you guys just ate like royalty, and now we don't even eat. It's part of
why are we in the ball pit at McDonald's?
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. So the restructuring, or how to manage growth, because I think this is kind of a fun conversation to get in. You have some leadership positions that are more than 1 year, right? You need to have those, but you also have site queues that for the most part are rotating on a yearly basis. And they're all over. You got change over here and change over here. And how do you keep messaging consistent? How do you keep engagement with those leaders consistent? And so Wait Time and I and a lot of others within our leadership, looked at sectoring versus splitting into regions. And I know that is a popular conversation, and that is probably from region to region to section. And so it was, as we were seeing growth in Sarpy County, which is the southern part of kind of our Omaha area, and you were seeing a culture being built. You were seeing friendships being built. You're seeing people travel less, which is good. You want it to grow in your neighborhood. And we're like, okay, how do we identify with that? What do we make of this? And the entire time it was, we want to be a part of F3, not apart from F3 Omaha. And we stuck with that. And so that was really our mentality with the sectoring. So as we grow, and trying to understand, what are these gray lines of growth? Who and how do we lead those? How do we communicate well? Frankly, it's really hard. It's really hard. And I'm sure you've had those moments, Tommy Boy, where you're like, you want to make sure that you're doing everything you can, that everybody's on the same page. The reality is some people move faster than others, and I'm 100%. A little bit slower. And so trying to gauge those temperatures of which communities, and then effectively communicate something that we always have to work on. So it's fun to watch as we build out these areas, all while saying, guys, there's no difference between each, sector. F3 Omaha should look the same no matter where you post. It doesn't matter. You just now have an opportunity who to talk with. If you want to become a part of a site queue, if you want to be part of third F, second F, whatever, you can have an identified leader. And that's really the importance of the structure. And I don't know if, Wait Time has anything to say on that. He was a big part of just that process as well. So I'll pass it to Wait Time to see what, his thoughts are on that and growth in general within our community.
Yeah, no, I would just echo a lot of the things you said, Tater. I mean, think about it this way, maybe, is the sectoring or splitting regions to me is about how you make decisions as a leadership team. Like, the PACs, a general high impact man who comes to you, I don't think really cares that much about, are we sectored, or is it a different region? Because they identify just with the people that they're posting with every day. We chose to sector, and where it became so necessary is we got to be so big. It was about how quickly we could make decisions. And Tater he says grace over a huge leadership team here. And, he can't be brought in on every decision that gets made. And so this was just a way for us to continue to grow in these different parts of greater Omaha, and us to be able to make decisions in a timely way that are consistent with what we're trying to do across the region.
Tommy Boy.
Outstanding.
Tommy Boy, you remember part of our conversation was that specifically on that day we talked, and you mentioned, the piece that you had that you could trust other leaders, let them go, let them grow, and you could concentrate and focus on the things that are important in your areas. And that was valuable information. I just didn't know I was being given at the time.
I learned it from greater men. My job is just to remove obstacles that are in the way of guys who are not desperate, determined to accelerate.
Yeah.
And if I was just a roadblock remover, then I did better than I ever could have imagined, right? So, well, here's what I hear. Here's the themes. Because again, why is this all stuff we're trying? It's because we're changing lives. You never know who the next FNG that shows up that perhaps if he didn't show up on a Monday because somebody EH'd him over to the cantaloupes at a grocery store, that maybe he wouldn't be amongst us anymore. But for Sky Q's determination or a third F determination, he's destined to be here and change lives on his own too. So the themes are this: never underestimate yourself. I think about that all the time when I think about my friendship with Wait Time. Never underestimate the ability of others, to kind of paraphrase Wait Time, and then never underestimate the legacy that you're going to leave behind. Is what I hear when I hear Tater talk. It all comes down to this. If I were to wrap up our connection and why we want to seek to take F3 to brand new areas in our country, whether it's next door or 5 states away or on the other side of the globe, hammering it down, drilling it down rather to the two of you. Each of you are unique individuals, and yet your superpower in my eyes is to make sure that people are seen. And you do it in your own way. Like I said, if you take the Texas accent out of Matthew McConaughey, you got a semblance of an idea of the guy that Wait Time is. He'll walk you to the water, and you won't even know that you've taken a step on your own. And then he'll get out of your way. Tater Tot, you have an essence of being able to make sure everybody in the room feels 10 times more important than they think you are. And they don't even know, they see you on the pedestal, and before they know it, they're the most important person in the room. And those are both superpowers as I watch our hunt continue in the world for virtuous leadership. Those are superpowers that aren't celebrated or recognized or dissected and studied enough. You guys are outside of the box. And that's a term that I don't even like using, but I'll use it because I can't think of a better one at the moment to define what you guys are doing in Omaha. And I can't wait to see where that travels next. So shutting up, final thoughts. Let's go in order that we started. Wait Time, just a final thought on why guys should be seeking to explore beyond their own region to give away F3.
Oh, wow. I would say, it's what we're all about is this types of personal transformations that people go through with F3. I think there's just a desire to give that away to other people, and whether it's in your local community and other regions. Our mission is to plant, grow, and serve small workout groups for the invigoration of male community leadership. And I don't let Tater Tot fool you in his aw shucks, Nebraska, I'm not articulate way. That's just a bunch of baloney. I would just like to say it is really important if you are a Nantan or you are in a leadership position that you just think about your leadership legacy and how you help grow somebody else's leadership and get the heck out of their way. The best decision I ever made as Nantan, and I hope most other Nantans will say this when they look back on their time in that role, is their successor. I wanted Tater to be successful. I wanted him to know that I had his 6 no matter what happened, and I just wanted him to be more successful than I wanted my own success. And that's what's happened. Like I watch him and I watch what he says grace over in terms of how big F3 Omaha has gotten. And I could not have named a better person to to bring his energy and enthusiasm and way he sees people at this point in our history. And to me, that's just living out the mission of F3 is invigorating male community leadership, and watching this guy do his magic in the gloom. It's incredible. So I think those will be my final thoughts.
Tater, final thought from you, man. Tomorrow's a big day. You're gonna have a bunch of fun, and then it's the first day of the rest of your life. What are your final thoughts on your F3 experience?
Ooh, the first day of the rest of your life. Boy, that's perspective right there, real quick. Oh, I mean, it's we've been saying it all week, but we've also been living it since Wait Time planted it. Like, have fun, guys. Like, celebrate. Life is worth celebrating. And tomorrow, or whenever you're listening or watching this, F3 Omaha at Boys Town, where it all began, unofficially, I suppose Turner Park is where it was planted officially, but Boys Town, and we can't give them enough credit. I know Wait Time thought it was just a general park where you could just waltz onto their campus and be like, let's plant a flag here, guys. We have since have grown up a beautiful relationship with Boys Town, and we're a part of their community. We're going to celebrate together. They're opening their doors for us. We're going to, do a cafeteria to the nines in their gymnasiums. And I think they understand what we're trying to accomplish. And, we can identify with of course, what their mission is and their concept. It's a beautiful marriage at a beautiful place, and all the things that have happened over the 5 years. This is to just, our focus in the messaging out there was to, one, be on time, and two, give copious amounts of hugs. Like, those are the 2 instructions. That's it. Yeah. And connect with people. And so we're going to celebrate to the nines, but we know, like in anything, after a championship or wherever your season ends, if you will, the next day you get back to work, And so we've got a brick builder that's right behind that, which is a part of our foundation for F3 Omaha. And we lost a Paxman for Nugent, Chris Gradeville. And so, those are, you talk about, for sure, those pivotal moments that you have within your region that can spark something, that sparks something for us. So we'll be focusing on that. But one thing that I'll never forget that had a big impact on us, but happened in Wait Time's basement. There was a PAX member by the name of Liverpool. And Liverpool came down and he shared something pretty near and dear to his heart. And no one had ever met this man. And he said, if you work on one thing and one thing only, F3 Omaha, I understand you guys can run. Got it. I know you guys like to work out. That's great. And you can eat mac and cheese and barbecue. Perfect. But you need to make a full commitment to your third F. Full commitment. Yeah. And that, outside of cafeteria, plant your AOs next to cafeterias, if that's not a hidden message. That third F is it's just an absolute special lightning rod bond that you can't replicate when you truly start talking about giving back to your community, and people are like, this is what it's all about. So Tommy, we're lucky to have you a part of our thread. We don't say thank you enough for just how much you give grace to Omaha, and you truly were a special part of the growth and the beginning of it. So thank you, Tommy boy.
Too kind. It was a joy. It continues to be a joy. It was hard work. It was all the things, and that's what joy is, right? Joy is big enough to encompass the entire human experience. And you guys are luckily 2 humans I get to share space with. So how lucky are we? We are the lucky ones. Wait Time. I'm going to come back to you and put you on the spot if you have a final word. I followed you from afar all week in building up to tomorrow. And just, all of us in Greensboro are plotting every COT. Somebody has to say something about Omaha, which is great. And tomorrow's the big day. So if there's been a running theme through your messages throughout the week or your inner thoughts throughout the week, what would that be that you would want to pass on to the next guy?
Yeah, man, boy. I would say a running theme throughout this week is just fellowship, lean into your friends, lean into the guy next to you. At the end of the day, guys, it just doesn't matter really how many Merkins you can do. or burpees you can do in the first step. You can get better Merkins and burpees if you go to CrossFit or a gym, but you will not get the fellowship there that you get through F3 when it's done the way our culture does it. Which leads then to what Tater Tot said, guys who just want to embrace the third F, which is faith, because they look for something beyond that. But this week's been all about fellowship. I think it's what really sets Omaha apart, and what we learned from our friends at Greensboro that have done so many amazing things for the Greensboro area, and what you guys have done there, Tommy Boy.
Gentlemen, normally I would say at this point, be good or be good at it. But in traditional improv form, the best way to end this podcast is to end it like we always end it. Omaha!